Peter Pan. I want to talk about this because I finished it recently, and I actually was quite impacted. And we had a segue a long time ago. I don't even remember what it was. We talked about Hook and Shmi, and it's Smee. It's not Shmi. I always want to call him that, and I don't know why.
I don't know why either.
I don't know either. I think it's the way what's his head says it. Who plays Hook in the Hook movie? It's a famous person. The guy who played Rain Man.
What?
Or Rain Man, I should say.
The
not
guy
Rain
who
Man.
played Rain Man? I don't think that was true.
It was him. Dustin Hoffman. There you go.
He played Rain Man?
Yes,
didn't know
it was
that
in
at
the, I think
all.
early '90s or something.
Sorry, let's not get
But yeah, Dustin
distracted
Hoffman, great
with Rain
actor,
Man.
and he's actually one of the reasons Hook's a great movie. But Hook's a great movie for other reasons that I realized while reading the book, because I was like, there's a lot of stuff in the book. It's not... The Disney movie does a pretty good job of capturing the spirit of it, I would say. It has very much the...
He was working off the theatrical play at the time.
Which I believe was before the book. I believe the play...
Is that fact? I didn't know that.
believe he wrote the play and then novelized it for mass publication. So there's definitely the air of whimsy that it captures and does quite well, but it's obviously not exactly plot for plot the same thing.
Sure.
But a lot of the details that are a fairly major part of Hook are actually in the book that I think is really kind of fun. Like the fact that he's got his whole cabinet chest. They even mentioned like the cabinet chest full of all his fancy hooks. Like that's actually in the book. They mentioned that. It was some... I forget. His, like... Cause, it was something to do with his clock phobia.
Oh, sure.
Because obviously that's in the Disney one, too, but it was something unique, specific that I can't now remember about it. And then just other... Yeah, I just felt like there was a lot of details that were in Hook, like his obsession with the concept of good form.
Right.
Which is, like, he goes on about that a lot in Hook. It's like, that's in the book, which I don't remember that being brought up in the Disney one very much.
It was a very, very brief nod at the very end when he talks about, it's not good form to, basically, when he's already
play
got
very
both
fast and loose, and I'm going to try
the sword and his own knife or whatever in his hand. Did it get him?
Oh well, okay. I'll take that. That was my own willy-nilly aiming.
There's a thing there.
Yes, but where is that? Dang it! That was right on top of the box, and I didn't see it until too late. What? He just wanted to give me one more. So I just enjoyed that because it made me appreciate the Disney one more. Because I already liked it, but it kind of I was like, there's certainly.
Now, did you feel like there were like? As far as the framing of vocabulary, were there English words that were
very old? Not old-timey. It was, I think, the late 1800s. So it's not any more convoluted than, like, Dracula or Frankenstein or one of those older works.
Right.
It's not Shakespearean by any means.
Well,
it's certainly, I think you'd have a hard time reading it to your kids and having them understand. You'd have to explain a lot.
Well, that's I was about to say, because I've run into that with... are reading through
because they demanded propriety and vocabulary back in the day. No bedtime story for you without a life lesson.
Certainly true, but
you could have crouched. You could have. Well, that was one way to do it. Oh! See, notice how he doesn't. Okay.
See,
his
I'm
attention.
peeking. Okay.
You can't peek from peeking from the side's a lot less viable. You have to peek from above. Peeking from the side, I don't think works from such a short thing. We're past the hour mark, which means this is episode 2, and it's going to take more than this probably to beat this. You got to be better with the cable every time you hand it to me. Get up and help me out here. You did this to me. You did this to me.
But the reason I bring up vocabulary is because
that's not the problem I had. Oh, okay, never mind. It corrected itself.
I'm reading through with my kids right now the series of the Black Cauldron.
Oh, I don't actually know what that really is.
And so I found that it's got a lot of words that I'm going, I don't know that. First of all, they're definitely not words that instantaneously I'm familiar with as far as normal vocabulary.
Them Victorians, it's like, hey, you're going to have to live.
But then the other thing... Well, I mean, this one wasn't... Black Cauldron wasn't super old. I mean, it was...
Well, was it still like 50s or something? Because I feel like...
Yeah.
I feel like even back then, there was a certain standard of like, yeah, learn words.
And...
Be an adult.
And it wasn't like they were trying to...
Okay,
to
now that I'm...
hard words in there.
Okay.
As much as it was, they just didn't oversimplify. Whereas you look at...
Well, they don't talk down.
You look at books like...
That's what Mrs. Doubtfire
mentioned
says.
Lemony Snicket. I feel like that actually
he's not
arguably
nearly
would be...
as... He makes it a gimmick in his books where he uses weird words and then gives the definitions, but gives contextual definitions that are slightly on the nose.
Sure.
Which I appreciate. I mean, the only reason I started reading those books was simply because of his reputation.
Well, don't get me wrong. I like the books. All I'm saying is the language is very simplified.
I got him in the noggin.
Do you agree? I mean...
It's simple-ish, but there's certainly... I wouldn't call it simple. I mean, simplified maybe, but not simple.
Well, I mean, take for instance even nursery rhymes. Those used to be things we grew up with.
Well, because
now people are raised on Teletubbies.
I don't know that I grew up on nursery rhymes.
Well, that's my point. I did, but I'm showing my age apparently. But I'm...
Oh, I am almost out of ammo in there. Okay,
I'm just saying...
Shotgun,
when that part of culture and society was
I thought,
okay.
Did I not reload that? I could have sworn I did. Well, can I? Okay, he can apparently turn around 160 in no time flat.
You're still alive, still kicking.
Oh, okay, I am. I would have thought I was dead from that. I probably am about to be. Well, never mind, you big doofus. I'm out of grenades. I am very nearly out of ammo. I believe all the fire extinguishers have been destroyed. I'm going to have to pull an ammo run and hope I get good stuff. And my inventory is full. That's probably something I need to address. Middle of the fight. Hang on. I got to get my satchel out. I probably don't need this dumb thing. It's probably not helping me right now. Painkillers. I'm going to take some of them. Machine pistol. I don't need the machine pistol ammo because I don't have a machine pistol. What does this actually do? Does this just give me energy? I think it does. Tranquilizer darts. Why do I have so much crap? Sniper rifle ammo, revolver ammo. I don't even have a revolver. Pick up everything else. Full again. You gonna carry the conversation onwards, or are you just gonna leave me to?
Well, I'm curious about what's happening right now.
Oh! I don't think I have that upgrade yet. Dang it! That would have helped in this.
What does that do?
That's one of those explosive things that I can just deploy from my body somehow. Well, I got pistol ammo that I don't need. What are? Oh, that's machine. Well, he's just.
All I'm saying is the progression of expectation has definitely slipped.
Because again, we're stupid nowadays.
Well, it's not even that we're stupid.
Partially because we stopped expecting things of
right,
people.
Exactly. Well, and it kind of goes to the Adam Savage thing, but I think Jordan Peterson talks about it too, which is that when we stop focusing on the actual academic stratification of students and actually just start focusing on their education.
Yeah, you could argue that's where it all went south.
Now back to education. We're on this soapbox again.
I'm getting off the soapbox. I'm tired of soap.
Well,
I'm going to live as a hillbilly and wash once a year.
Wash behind your ears.
The smell we're generating in this very hot room is already testament to that fact.
This is like
it's 103 today. And,
I was gonna say sauna, but the word that was coming to mind was hot box, and that's not what I meant.
Well, I mean, if you wanted me to go get the stuff, I mean. But yeah, so it's not undecipherable, but it is definitely like, oh, this is quite well spoken.
Okay, should we drop this?
No, because it's definitely. I got a few good hits in one of the runs, and I should probably try that again. But you do have to. That's one of those ones that you can't shoot very accurately from cover, so you have to get him to not know where you are and then aim from the other side of the room. Because I feel like we're going to need high-powered stuff to actually take him down. So I don't want to get rid of it, because all we'd be able to... I don't think it would save us much. I believe the boxes do also explode if you let him shoot them too much, so... We're low on ammo again! But yeah, I just really I liked it more than I expected to, because I thought I was going to be like, okay, yeah, it's a kid's story, and yeah, it's a classic, but I thought, I wasn't expecting a whole lot from it.
Well, again, I feel like the classics actually are meant to.
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't dumb stuff down.
Right. Well, dumbing stuff down, but even the concepts are not.
Well, that's part of the dumbing.
Rudimentary.
Down.
Yeah, I think.
And yeah, I just found that it's actually remarkably witty. It's. Yeah. I mean, it's the movie is, I think, witty as well to certain degrees, but it's even more so. And so that's kind of surprised me. There's lots of very clever, not quite to the Lemony Snicket wordplay that he's famous for, but I was like, there's a lot of pretty clever. I wrote a couple lines down that I was like, oh, that was really well written. I don't have them on hand. And then I was actually quite surprised. I'm going to grab this and I'm playing, okay, well, screw you. That was stupid. I was going to play aggressive and huck it at him first thing, but the game said no.
Stick it.
Well, I don't want to go stick in a fire hydrant. Fire hydrant. Fire. What are they called? Extinguisher. I can't think. I'm having
fire hydrant.
It's heat stroke.
Heat stove. Please don't stoke it.
We're stoking the fire. The
Holy
ending.
Midnight Tokers, Batman is the joke.
The ending is actually quite. Well, it's not exactly. I mean, it's sad, but not in a. It's not depressing, but it is certainly somber, I guess is the right word. Yeah. And it has a sort of hook-ish ending in the sense that it's like the whole coming to terms with growing up thing, and it does actually. I actually was surprised that I mean, I don't think the movie that followed was at all proper, but the Peter Pan 2 that Disney tried to make is actually loosely based off of how it ends, where it's like she does actually have a daughter who goes to Neverland and comes back, and they don't explain what happened, so I think the movie didn't exactly base off of that, but there was just more of that I appreciated it. I was actually moved, and I did not expect to be moved by it. Yeah. Does that transition us into a culture corner? We might as well, because you said you've been watching and reading stuff. I've been reading and watching stuff.
Well, I mean, I kind of hit on right now, the Book of Three is the first book in the Black Cauldron.
Oh, okay.
So for instance, in the Black Cauldron, the Disney edition, the Horned King is far more villainized than in the book. In the book, he's very much just the anti-hero. And they can't, not even like that he should be, what is it called? That he should be pitied, but okay, kind of. But kind of. I mean, it's a little bit like that.
The ring around this rosy strategy, I really just think ends poorly every time. It is tentative at best, is what I would say. I don't know why he doesn't shoot you right then and there when he has the chance. I guess they felt the need to give you a chance or something. But
I like the fact that Ruben, specifically my son, was like, okay, we're maybe a chapter in, and it kind of reveals the Horned King. And that's the guy on the front of the cover, and he's like, oh, he's the bad guy. I was like, then he meets the primary protagonist, and basically the way he frames it is, no, this guy is just a victim of the actual bad guy. And it's a little bit like what a lot of people don't realize is the kind of Sauron being the, not even a victim, but just more he does the bidding of Morgoth, that whole concept.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you certainly can't call Sauron an anti-hero, but in the book, the Horned King very much is. And so,
is it based off of that?
No, it's not. I'm just saying. So,
dang it. Well, okay. At least I grabbed
anyway, that's cultural-wise on a book level. That's kind of what I've been putzing around with.
Is that all though? I thought you mentioned something else that was that you yourself were doing.
Well, I mean, on a movie level, I recently watched the Ford versus Ferrari. That was fantastic.
I never did see that. I remember hearing a lot about it when it came out, and I was always interested.
It is one of the... I will say this. As far as car movies, it's one of the best I've seen. Because it has all the great, like, we're driving and things are fast and crazy, but it also...
Are they furious?
Yeah, exactly. But it has substance. And that's
because it's about
an
actual
intentional dig at Fast and Furious and that whole franchise, because there's nothing of substance.
Okay, I'm going to attempt this.
And you may disagree with me. Some people will be like, yeah, there's substance, but the reality is it's a glorified drama. So let's just be honest.
It's Michael Bay.
Wow.
It's Transformers. It's big things exploding.
Well, that's true.
My favorite critique of that was, I believe it was a gag Yahtzee makes in one of the Zero Punctuations where he jokes about a fictitious... Oh, I forgot he can phase through barriers. A fictitious Transformers movie. It was like something like Transformers 21, even bigger stuff breaking. And it's like, that's basically all this is like, what will we demolish next? This time it'll be Paris. And it's like, okay, cool, thanks.
But this one not only had substance in that the characters were well developed, but because it's based on a true story, by the end of it, when it was like, and Ken Miles is actually a real guy that did all this stuff, and you're going...
It's always fun. I like really when movies do that. And I mean, a lot of movies do, but I still think it's fun. When they have the pictures of the guy to show you how close the casting director got, and it's like, this is how he lived his life.
Well, and it's just...
I don't know why, I've always appreciated that. It makes it
inspiring. Like, when I'm done with that movie, I was sitting there going, wow, this is actually... Because it's two guys, it was a bit of the smaller... companies taking on the bigger companies and going, we're going to win.
Ford versus Ferrari, don't you know?
Well, not even Ford versus Ferrari. I'm talking more the Shelby American versus...
Well, but that's under Ford, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. That's the thing. Originally, it was not. That's...
Well, I mean, that's why I suppose it has that name, but that's... People still call them Shelbys today, even though they're under the Ford name.
Right, but that happened later when, in the movie, essentially, they made a bet with Ford and said we can come under your umbrella if we lose the bet, and they didn't, so they ended up still having their own company. But it's like it was a
goose. Goose.
Goose.
You goosed that hard.
I just really appreciated the fact that it was not too... It wasn't simplified to the point that it was like, okay, they just have to try and believe hard enough.
Yes, it wasn't an anime.
Right. It was a bit of a...
That's not to say all anime is crap. Apparently I have to codify that.
But... I almost jumped Arcane.
That's not an anime.
No, I'm not suggesting it's an anime. I was just saying...
Just to prove the law.
Prove the law that not everything's crap.
No, I said not anime. Not all anime is crap.
No, I know. But the concept of pushing the envelope and not letting the big guy kind of push you around is very much a value I appreciate because...
make it work.
Because it's people that...
That's a much tougher...
It's people that live by conviction, and then those convictions...
Oh, hey!
Hey, it's right over there.
Redemption. Give it to me! Oh, he's going to blow up the other one now. Oh, Jonka! Oh, it phased through him again. Ha. In your eye sockets! That should kill him right there, and I think it's ridiculous that I even... Can I pick this up? I ain't pussyfooting no more. Dang it! I'm pussyfooting some more. He had none of it.
That would have been
That probably would have hurt me had that hit him, because I was right in front of him, too.
He just slapped you like a...
hot dog.
Yeah, sure. We can go with that for now. Anyway, I thought it was a great movie. You would enjoy it.
I would. I know that based from all the stuff I've seen and heard people say, I'm like, I really should. I don't know why I haven't. I haven't watched the new thing in a while, if that was a movie.
Remarkably,
I don't know why.
Matt Damon, who is a great actor, but I'm not normally a fan of...
qualify? Matt Damon is a good actor?
Yes. No, I'm not.
Have you ever seen Good Will Hunting? You still
yes,
haven't.
No, I'm sorry. That one I haven't.
You haven't, and you'll never criticize him again.
Well,
I'm teasing, of course.
This movie specifically gave me an appreciation for more of his dramatic side, Because most of the time, like, for instance,
Okay,
Oceans, that kind of thing.
Those are poor choices.
That's true.
You can't judge
But
Matt
then you
Damon
go
by the
Bourne.
Oceans films.
That's
He's
another...
playing that. That's just the character, I think.
I agreed.
That's...
And so, in this movie with Ford versus Ferrari, I was shocked that in the end, there's a significant... It's not even a twist. It's just there's a significant section of the plot that happens where he gets... where he gets real emotional.
Thank you for that.
And
it's not a spoiler, just the plot happens.
But I mean, it's like, hey, he pulled that off really well. I actually feel some sadness.
Some sadness. Yeah, you should watch Good Will Hunting. It'll prove to you that I am still mostly astonished by the fact that he wrote that when he was like 18. That's absurd to me.
Still remarkable.
Why has he not written anything since? Is he pulling a Harper Lee? He's just like, it was...
Yeah, I'm done.
The first thing he ever did was so good that he's just like, do I need to do another?
Freaking nailed it!
You gonna write another movie, Matt? Nah. Did you watch the first one? Freaking nailed it!
Was that about Harper Lee?
Yes, that's the
I didn't realize
To Kill a Mockingbird thing. Everyone should watch Randy if you don't mind swearing. So yeah, I'm trying to think. I haven't watched a film in a long time. I haven't watched any shows recently either.
Except Arcane.
I'm saying since then, obviously. I think people should know by now that I have watched that.
Have you watched Arcane? Because I've watched Arcane. I found out I really liked Arcane.
You made that joke before, and I missed the throw and screwed it up. I did try to watch... Well, I say try. That doesn't mean I've given up. It just means that haven't finished it. Because...
I don't think we've commented. Are you going the route that I think you're going?
No, because I don't think you even know that this thing exists.
Okay, then never mind.
It was similar to Arcane. Not really. It was mentioned in a similar context of... I watched the special effects guys react videos that have become popular lately.
Yeah.
And so in one of them, they were talking about this show. The show is now called Love, Death, and Robots, which is a weird Netflix thing. And they were talking about it, and they were just mentioning it, and the animator that they had, I think he was an animator rather than a special effects guy, saying he was basically talking about how, this is the unique stuff they did, and it's like Arcane, and they made the comparisons of, and it just, so I was, kind of interested me. And the clips they showed was like, it looks real kind of weird, and I was in the mood for an experimental thing. Well, it's not a film, it's a show.
No, okay.
So I was like, if you were torturing that segue just to be able to make that joke, you disrespected the joke.
No,
that joke could stand on its own feet.
I said it on its own 2 feet. You just tripped over it.
Well, you shouldn't have said it so close to me then. So I was just like, hey, if this guy who is commenting, going, oh yeah, this and Arcane are of equal, because they're not similar at all,
right? But
they're of equal like
quality.
Animation, new and interesting, quality. So I was like, sure, I'll check it out, and it's really freaking weird.
How so?
I mean, they said it because it's not a cohesive show. Basically, every episode is essentially like a short story.
Oh, I have a pistol.
Why did you do that to yourself?
I didn't realize that. Dang it.
I thought you just threw the pistol, but that was what you did.
That was the worst run yet.
So I watched.
Just tapping him in the face with a single 45. Like, that'll do the job.
I think you had two. So I checked it out. The first one it's super dark, but it's also really freaking hilarious. Because it's basically, it's a writing prompt that they totally just ran with. Which is basically, it's like, these robots wandering around the apocalypse, scenario of, after all of humanity has died, and so they're wandering through these empty cities and whatnot. But they do it they do it so well that the fact that it's sort of a writing prompt doesn't matter, because it's so clever. And it's also like really freaking dark. Where it's like, there's one segment where they're in this gym and they're talking about like, how the humans worshipped these spheres, and it's just a basketball. It's like people would gather and they make this big thing about it, but then there's like, in the background, there's like a cheerleader dead against the wall, and there's a basketball player hanging from the ceiling. And it's like, so it's super dark, and yet they play this this comedy straight
that
over
almost
top of
reminds
it.
me of that
So it's
comic,
like, oh my gosh.
like the alien comic that's like, you know,
Not the alien.
the one that's
Alien?
like I
The
malfunction.
Yes, the Strange Planet.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying alien comic. I was like, the Ridley Scott alien? Does he have a comic?
No.
I'd hit him and he... Okay, good. Like, no offense, he should never recover from this. I don't specifically mean he shouldn't recover from being shot, because obviously that's true. But I mean, if I'm even if they're not killing you, me pumping, whatever size shotgun shells into your face should at least be incapacitated. Like, you shouldn't be able to react anymore. I feel like if you just get a steady stream going, he'd be going, forever. I guess until you reload, but still. So I watched that, and it's definitely whack. I think the fact that it's not one cohesive thing, which I thought it was, kind of makes it a bit. Yeah, because they're all only like 15 minutes, and they're all separate. So I was like, oh, I was wanting to chew on a nice meaty narrative, but we are in a meaty narrative famine. Only scrawny narratives nowadays.
Unless you watch Arcane.
Unless you watch Arcane on repeat. I'm at the point now where I don't want to do that because I'm afraid of sucking it dry.
Oh dear.
Like, you know how you listen to a song you love until you don't like it anymore, and I'm like, I don't want to do that to this because it deserves to be
savored.
Well, it's like even when it's like when I finally got you to watch Avatar years ago, and I was like, because I was in the mood for it. You just waited for him. It had been a long time since and he said no too. He didn't even give you the chance. It had been years since I had seen it, so I was also ready like for a rewatch of it. And then once we finished it, I was like, okay, I need to not watch this again for a while because I want it to be, naturally
fresh.
Yeah, you don't want to just drive stuff into the dirt because but it's good, because eventually it won't be good if you do that to it.
Yeah.
So I'm up to 4.
4 times.
Well, I think I've watched it 4 times through.
Well, I was gonna say we might as well comment on because I think we've left this alone for a long time, but
left it alone.
We started talking about the fact that we had started Gotham, and now we stopped because
we talked. We haven't left it alone. We talked about it back when it was good.
Well, but I'm saying we haven't really.
There's a masterclass in subtext.
Yeah, exactly.
We
stopped watching.
It dropped off real hard at the beginning of season 2.
Yeah.
Like it was like, oh, okay, were they not sure they were gonna get a second season or something?
Well, not even that. It just
fell off real weird.
But it wasn't like falling off in like okay, this is tolerated. Like for instance, when we watched the Arrow, it was like, okay,
I think was a matter of investment. Had Arrow gone to what it did in season 2, I think we probably would have.
That's true. But
and I don't want to abandon it because I know from reputation that later seasons do some really interesting stuff with characters. So I'm like, there's a part of me that wants to push through it, but it will have to take a different strategy of pushing through it.
One person in that show that has remained faithfully awesome has been Alfred.
Yeah, Alfred's pretty cool. Jim has not. Gordon has never not. Okay. He's never gone to the stupid side, because even, like, we used to joke that Dig in Arrow was a character that never wasn't stupid, but then he also was stupid. Like, no one survived that show unscathed.
That's true. They sullied every name.
Yeah, whereas Gordon never really went there, but I guess he's the main character. He had the best going for him. But
you didn't like the Enigma concept that they did like more like a psychological.
They're making him far more Two-Face like, where he has like this weird internal persona that eggs him on to do.
Well, and I was comparing it to the 2000.
The Jim Carrey one?
No. I was comparing it to the Spider-Man where the
Spider-Man.
Green Goblin has that. Because remember I mentioned when we went to see...
you're talking about the disorder type.
Right, where it's like, it's more of a...
It's a split, it's a dissociative,
yeah.
It's a Smeagol thing.
Yeah.
Let's just rename that a Smeagol complex.
And I don't know that I liked it within the narrative of...
It doesn't fit Riddler very well because it makes him far more... Riddler never comes across as genuinely unhinged.
Right. I didn't hate it as much as
he comes across as... I'm not sure. I don't know that I can ever take him seriously. I mean, the Batman, the Pattinson Batman gives... it does the best that the character can hope for in terms of making him actually scary, but I have to admit it doesn't exactly feel like the Riddler, because it's like this feels a bit more, again, like Joker or Two-Face or one of the more serious, menacing ones, because Riddler's never been all that menacing.
Right.
I mean, I'm
He's
sure
been mischievous.
I'm sure some comic people will go, actually, in this arc, he kills 4 babies. And it's,
wow.
I'm sure there's some
They're hanging with the cheerleaders in the gym.
There's some obscure comic that Riddler goes super dark, but it's not what people know him for.
Well, I think he's arguably been a archetype of kind of the more mischievous type of villain.
He's
where
a
it's
Loki.
Like,
he's a Loki type
right.
character.
Great example. Yeah, exactly.
Well, okay. I was gonna make a segue, but I realized we just segued to this, so I probably don't want to jump away too soon.
What? Well, no, go for it.
It would only prove
if it's naturally.
No, it won't be natural.
Are you going to Arcane again?
I decline to answer that.
On the grounds that it might incriminate you.
Grounds that it might make me look like a weeb.
Well, Arcane isn't weeby though. What is it?
We were gonna get into the archetypal discussion that we have had several times, but it was just gonna be more of it.
Well, about
so that doesn't
what? Were you gonna relate the whole Star Wars concept?
Oh, that was that too.
I mean, that'll at least make it fresh.
Fresh.
I'm saying fresh in that it's you. Like, we haven't specifically talked about that. Connected.
Well, then should we? Well, we're on the culture corner. I suppose we'll just talk about stuff we've watched, because that counts. That way it might feel less tortured. So perhaps that's, I don't know. But yeah, it's gone down. So I will probably continue to watch it, but it'll have to be I'm putting it on in the background.
You're talking about.
Still talking about. I'm trying to wrap up Gotham so we can move on.
Gotham.
But
put the pin in it.
It's like because sadly, the Next Generation Star Trek got taken off Netflix, which has me salty. Because that used to be my show that I was like, oh, I'll put this on in the background because I like it, but I'm not sure I would sit and binge it for hours.
Right.
And so I might do that with Gotham, where it's like, okay, I want to see where it goes later, but I might have to. I don't think I can sit and focus on it for long times anymore. Because it used to be like, oh, this is interesting and I can watch it. Now it's not. But anyways. What else have we watched? And by that I mean like 2 hours ago.
Oh, well.
Well, where did you think we were going to go? I thought you were bringing it up. You're talking about being fresh. This is as fresh as we can get.
Sure.
Except that this will come out probably a month from now because we had a big backlog.
Certainly, but I was saying I thought you were. We can definitely go there, but I thought you were relating it to Arcane.
Oh, all roads lead to Arcane eventually. So we'll talk about this first, and I'll shoehorn in something else.
So
our opinion is unchanged.
Yeah, we finished watching Kenobi, and
the finale came out.
Literally, that's all that we need to say about it. We finished it
because I realized the finale came out on Wednesday, which is technically it came out like early Wednesday morning, which was
we finished it.
So our video about everything up to the finale came out that day, and I was like, oh, now people are going to be whatever. And now this won't come out for months, but basically our opinion never changed.
It's just an average show that it's forgettable. That's the sad
thing. Yeah, that's what's sad, because there are nuggets, and I mean, the only, since we're talking about the finale, the nugget that to me stood out, which, I mean, credit to them, they put the most significant effort into probably the one scene that needed to be good, which is the true fight between Kenobi and Vader at the end, when they actually fight and aren't just running away from each other. So they put, especially I predicted that they were going to pull a mask off moment, because, we knew Hayden Christensen was coming back,
right,
and we knew he was in the suit. Like, it wasn't just he's coming back for flashbacks. It's like he's actually going to be playing Vader, which means, of course, they're going to play with having him visible. Because otherwise, why not just get a body double?
I thought that the way they did it was very interesting.
They did it well. They basically ripped off Rebels, but I won't...
But they didn't, though, because...
It's different enough, I grant
Rebels made him look normal in the face when his face was exposed.
He had his weird eyes, but I think
he still had hair. Whereas this one, in Rebels,
you couldn't see that far into his head. You could only see his eyes, one of his eyes.
Well, he's still an eyebrow. Then is that all I'm saying?
I don't know if he still has eyebrows.
But all I'm saying is, I liked the fact that they actually made him like fully a burn victim. It's like,
that I think
this guy burned alive and was brought back to life.
Probably just. I mean, Rebels was not well animated. Oh,
Well, that's certainly true.
So I
think something I could never get past
Rebels,
with Rebels.
Rebels wasn't great, in my opinion. I know that it was still Dave Filoni, who people love, and I like him a lot too.
Lightsabers, I just couldn't get
that. That is not the crux of my issues with it. I think it's not nearly as interestingly animated as Clone Wars. It's a little... Everyone looks a little bit like... I don't know, Duplo dolls, I guess. There's just something that's like everyone feels like a stretched polygon,
like the poppets. What are those called? The
I have no clue.
Those little big head, the poppets, aren't they?
I don't know. I'm thinking Duplo. They're basically giant Legos.
No, I'm talking about those like little figurine deals with like the massive heads.
Well, Duplos have big heads.
Funkos. There we go.
Oh, they're not quite that bad. But they just look like weirdly smoothed polygons. Like everyone's face feels weirdly flat. But
Fighting polygon team.
Yeah, it's like even Clone Wars actually made... There was some unique design where it's like it sounds weird to say, but it's like people had, angular faces and they had, shapes and profiles that made them look unique. Whereas I feel like everyone in Rebels is just a spherical head. I don't know. That's quibbling. I didn't love the plot of it either because the only episodes I watched were the ones Ahsoka was in because there's the only character I really cared about. But they did the same thing, and I think they did it well enough. If I could pinpoint like this is the moment where I was actually like, oh, I am actually engaged and moved by this scene. It was that specific moment, not really anything that led up to it, but when his mask is revealed and Obi-Wan has his moment of like, oh, I'm sorry. I think, credit to Ewan McGregor, it's like, okay, that was an excellent performance of that moment for the character.
I think because before
and it was sadly just like, one of the only ones in the show.
Before he said it almost like vindictively in episode 3. He said it like,
well, the whole
sorry,
I failed
Anakin,
you, Anakin. It's a little like
it's a
bit of a humble brag,
right?
It's like, I clearly must have screwed up because you're just stupid. You so screwed up. I must have been involved.
Yeah. But this one is far more like an actual.
It actually is like I actually was like, well, you feel for Obi-Wan in this moment on a gut level,
right?
And that's good. But even the fight leading up to it, it just felt like. I made the comment, and you sort of agreed that the problem with it is that every part of it, it feels like they just made the storyboard. Like all of the filming and the direction was based off of the storyboard. Like it's panning wide shot of Vader in this. Obi-Wan says this, it's just a still shot of his face. Vader says this in reply, still shot back. It just nothing felt dynamic.
Almost like the director's cut without any editing.
It felt a bit first drafty.
Yeah. That's a good word
because
for
it's
it.
just, the fight, it's literally like, okay, Vader's beating Obi-Wan, and then Obi-Wan has his little moment, and then now he's beating Vader, and it doesn't feel like a natural fight progression. It's just like Vader has to lose now.
What so that
we can break his mask.
Was
and
a bit of like the old kung fu movies where it's like hero is beat down to the point of near death, and then
I made a Goku
joke
that it was a little Goku-y where it's like, oh, well, I forgot, I thought I could run, because it's like he's beaten down, but he's got a secret flashback that'll give him inspiration. I don't know.
Level 3000.
Yeah, it felt blocky, if I could say it that way. It felt like nothing felt smooth. It was like, okay, we're here, and then we're chunk, and now we're here, and then we're chunk, and now we're here. It just it may as well have been an old slideshow on one of those.
Well, I was thinking more like it's like the dress rehearsal.
Yeah, it could have been a silent film where text, jaunty music, and then it's.
I have failed you.
I have failed you, Anakin.
What on earth?
I was going with the old school, carnival announcer voice.
You missed it by a long shot.
I felt like I was
like a barker.
A little. I was kind of aping the dollar bill from BioShock. It was in my brain.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I was dialing it up to 11. I don't know. Maybe it was too much. I broke the knob off.
This goes to an 11.
Yeah, it felt like almost, pantomime's too harsh.
No, I feel like
it felt closer to
Certain
that than
parts.
closer to that than a Star Wars product should
Barring
be.
Ewan and
Yeah, they're still the best thing about it.
The rest of it was
naturally.
very much pantomime.
Well, what's her head? I feel bad
so
harping because
bad.
everyone harps. And I don't feel like she deserves hate because, it's not her fault, but she just had no clear motivation. She kept pinging around of okay, we're going to kidnap the kid, draw Kenobi out. Because I want to hunt Kenobi because I want to impress Vader. But I don't want to impress Vader. I actually hate Vader. I want to try to kill him. But now that I've got the kid that I used to get Kenobi out, I'm going to interrogate her about the rebels because for some reason I think the 10-year-old knows. And then I heard a transmission from this other guy, and now I realize that Vader's got kids, and I'm going to kill him. And it's what? How did she draw any of these conclusions? It just felt like very much she had every motivation she needed for the plot to progress.
Well, and not only that, it's
I put it there for a reason.
It's like
it had to be biased towards you.
Well, okay. I don't think that's
Look
true.
at these peaks. Look at the difference you see over there. I have to edit
can do that too.
Yeah, but you don't naturally.
Well,
apparently, I just shout because I'm a passionate person. I don't know. Yeah, it felt very much like she had the motivation the plot required at the moment.
Literally like the director was, it was almost like a narrator going, she knows that because the narrator told her.
Yeah, she knows that because she read the script. So, I'm still of the opinion that it isn't the train wreck disaster. Wow, this was a train wreck disaster. It's not the train wreck people say it is. It's really just a sort of mediocre thing with a few highlights, and that's sad.
They didn't run over your entire body. They just ran over your big toe with the train.
I'd be more upset if that happened than I was upset at this. I'm only mildly perturbed by this. That would cause me harm. I don't know that I support the analogy. It didn't deliberately spit on my face, but it talks too loud and spit got on my face. I can pardon one because I know it wasn't deliberate, and I'll.
What about if I get like this? I will make monkeys of these monkeys. That was a little bit. Okay, you know what it was like? It was like watching an old, very similar to a Wizard of Oz kind of a thing, where it's okay, I understand what they're doing, but this feels a little screenplay-ish.
That's pantomime is a similar vibe. I don't know. It's what it is, and it's what a lot of Star Wars is, which is what's sad. We had this discussion that I think a lot of Star Wars dies in execution.
Superman. Well, that is Is that a Lucas? Is that a fault of Lucas?
No, because Disney's doing it too. I mean, that's the unique thing between I don't care who you are.
You took that an absolute champion.
I think he stands too far away from it, from the blast, to hurt him. Because I've tried it too. Lucas, if whatever you think about the prequels, I would imagine that anyone who really takes a look at them can say they had some really great ideas that didn't get executed well. I would give them charity and say they're executed well enough for the ideas to shine through, and that's all that matters to me. Because I don't. If you can see the idea, why be deliberately obtuse and go, well, because it wasn't executed, I'm not gonna grant the idea the merits of that.
What do people get hung up with on the prequels?
Mostly the dialogue writing that's pretty much the part of it that is pretty objectively strugglesome at times.
Well, within the romance scenes, I would say
those rank highly among them. Yes. Give me the thing. No, I dropped it. I don't need that. There you go. So that's primarily the thing, and it's just that's why I don't think it's not an actor problem. Okay, it just didn't work that time. That's lovely. Thank you. Well, that strategy may not work. Anyways, I can see the threads the prequels were pulling, and the fact that they weren't very tightly woven isn't as important, because I see what it was trying to do, and what it was trying to do was a valuable thing. And
that's what that's about. I'm just kidding.
Well, now you've given the game away. Yeah, just because they weren't expertly done, I can still give them the credit that I see what they were trying to do, which is, again, since we're all roads, I did have this sort of thought over this week where I realized that I have made the Jinx Vader comparison a number of times, and a number of other people have, and it's not inapt. Although I briefly mentioned the one time the video essay that I'm never actually going to make about why they're not total. What would you call that? They're not exactly the same. Whoa! Oh, okay. I could just walk into him with it. I mean, that hurt me too, but I'm going to do that, because that was better than having to throw it every time.
They're not...
he's going to blow up the barrel. Dang it, he's going to blow up the barrel.
They're not mirror images.
No, because I think... Well, I guess I'll spoil the plot of that, because someone should make it, even if I'm not going to. My whole crux of it was, I think the main difference between them is... Okay, he really does take that like a champ. The main difference is the whole idea of this alternate persona being totally distinct from the previous character, and that's where I think in Vader that makes much more sense because he's on board with it.
Right.
Like Vader was a title.
He's choosing to be that.
Well, yes, but also in some ways Vader was a title given to him that he doesn't feel like he can escape.
Right.
Because of the things he's done. Like,
well, how is that different than Jinx?
Jinx chose that name. Jinx chose to be identified. She went
after she was told that's what she was.
Yes, but it was an act of identification, which you. And here's again, maybe this is just me seeing deeper than perhaps even I should. Maybe I'm giving way too much credit, but I feel like even in the moments when Vader is trying to claim that he's accepted who he is, I feel like he's trying to convince himself. He's not trying to convince anyone else.
Right.
Because he never really is. That's why ultimately his redemption arc feels right, because you sort of get... I mean, I suppose maybe it's just Return of the Jedi that does this on its own. That makes him... That you feel how much that he does sort of wish. Because here's the thing. Ultimately, this was going to be the crux of the video if I could edit it together. I was going to play 2 clips simultaneously. Because the difference is, when Luke says, he says, that name no longer holds any meaning for me, and Luke says, it's the name of your true self, you've only forgotten. He says something else, and then Vader doesn't say, you're wrong, or I'm not that. He says, it's too late for me. He's essentially acknowledging, I wish I could be that, but I can't. It's too late. Whereas the thing that seems similar to me is in the moment when Vi and Jinx actually meet and Vi keeps calling her Powder, Jinx actually says, stop calling me that. That's not my name anymore. You could make the claim... She
says it with conviction, not...
Yeah, you could make the claim that it's like, it's a defensive thing, but she says it...
No, it's not
fairly agitated, like... Yeah, it's like going, no, I'm choosing this. This was me. I am this.
Well, and it's a bit...
I am not who you want me to be, and I don't want to be anymore.
It's also got... also got undercurrent in that if you're not going to be okay with the fact that I'm
then you're not going to be okay with me.
Exactly.
And that's essentially the crux of the finale, is you're going... She offers her going, if you make Caitlyn go away, you can have Powder back. And that feels like, even for her, that's a...
It's a ploy.
I don't know that it was a ploy, because would she have done it had she done it? Maybe. I think she might have, but I think it was more of the sense of... I think it was a desperate sort of plea, like, I'll try to... It feels like she knows she can't do it, but she's offering because she's desperate for the hope that she no longer really has. Which is why, ultimately, when the chips are down, literally... she basically goes, okay, no, what she wanted, and what she tells her even directly, is what I wanted was for you to love me the way you used to. And I thought I had to go back to being that for you to do that, but I can't do that, which means basically I recognize you and you can't do that. Now, you could argue again, that's all... Some people will argue that that's still a psychological barrier or whatever. That's where the interpretations can go any number of ways. I don't buy it, though. I feel like it's an actualization thing where that's the difference between them is one of them wants to be different. One of them wants others to simply accept them.
She's embraced.
Vader doesn't want Luke to accept him as Vader. Vader wishes he could be Anakin that Luke sees.
Right.
But he doesn't think he can. Whereas what Jinx wants is for Vi to just say, yes, I'm okay with who you are. Which Vi can't do because, obviously.
Well, and there's an embracing of the
there's no way we're going to do this in the
label
next 2 minutes.
That became
well, it's a
more
spiteful
than just,
thing.
Yes.
The fact that she chose that name,
but it's more
literally
that then gets
within minutes. Clearly, I think this is where you can never possibly know. But I imagine, I don't think Silco knew her name.
No.
I imagine when he asked who she was, that's probably the first thing she said. So we're talking minutes after it happened. It wasn't like, oh, I've been tortured by this, but I'm going to accept it. It's like, no, it was spite from the very first moment. Like, I'll show you. Which is why I go, Jinx is an act of volition. It was not something she was forced into and then trapped in.
It became more than that. Because if it's only that, the psychologists have a point in saying it's a barrier. But if it became more than that, in that it became something where she said, well, this is...
Oh, boy.
She stopped thinking of Jinx as a negative. If that makes sense. It was less of a, oh, well, I'm just this, and that's all I can be.
Woe is me.
Right, and
it's
more of a...
I am that, and you're... Oh, okay, didn't give me the chance to shoot him. It's like, I'll show you. If that's what you want me to be, I'll be that.
Right.
And I'll be even more than you thought. So anyways, that was the crux of that, is I think some people... Because that's the defense I often see of Vi, is they treat it as a sort of Luke... desperately reaching for the lost person within, and I just think that's ultimately why it doesn't work, because that lost person's not there. The person is not lost, it's the person in front of her that she can't see. But anyways,
well, arguably,
I got onto that as a precursor.
Vi would be more lost in that scenario, in my opinion, than Jinx would be in a psychological context.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Vi's stuck in the past.
Well, that's her whole arc. That's her whole character, is she can't cope. And ultimately, I think it makes sense. You'd go, obviously she can't accept her as she is, because essentially would be accepting the greatest mistake she ever made.
Well, but
it's going, I have to accept that I made this tremendous mistake that I wish I could spend my entire life devoting to undoing, and yet I can't do that because the person doesn't want to be undone.
Right.
And so, and I would ultimately argue that Vi's greatest character flaw is a total inability to acknowledge, it's a total lack of introspection.
Yeah.
Because essentially what she would have to do is go, I screwed up and I can't take it back and I'm sorry. Essentially, she would have to just own it and go, you know what, I can't fix this. But maybe I can and that's, I was going to get this was all going to be in aid of a different topic, and now it's just the topic. Because ultimately, that's where I go, if you wanted to get down to the root of my appreciating Silco more than Jinx, is that his whole character is about embracing the inner monster. So he's basically going, that's his whole thing, and that's what Vi needs to do in order to have her sister back.
Yeah, but it's a bit
going,
like
I
shadow
screwed up,
integration.
I can't. Well, exactly. That's exactly what it is. He is, aside from Vander, because of other reasons, he is, I would say, one of the most integrated. Well, he probably swings a little too far to the shadow side. Like, I think he doesn't establish probably as many boundaries as you'd need to.
Well, but
he's the only one who even acknowledges it at all.
I think context has to play into
other
that,
than you can argue Vander, but I think Vander
he's in
had
a
his other
Fallout
reasons.
kind of situation. I'm sorry. I would swing probably a little more towards the shadow as
You
well.
keep making the weird apocalypse. It's not an apocalypse. Oppression is not apocalypse. Poverty is not apocalypse.
Well, but it's definitely dystopian, certainly.
I wouldn't say that, because that... I didn't mean to do that.
Either way, I feel like
but
the times were extreme enough that I'm like, yeah, you kind of had a right to swing the opposite way slightly.
Well, I still think it's too far to a degree. I thought I was dead, so you just inherited my problem. I totally thought I was dead because I thought I fell over. So, anyways, that's why I think it's ultimately going. Why can't she do it? Is because you're going. She can't accept that, because just to accept her sister means to accept her own worst failing. And it's hard to do that, but that's where I think Jinx or Silco had the head start, where he's going, yeah, we're all screwed up. You just got to acknowledge it. And again, perhaps he takes it too far, but he's the only one who does it at all, which is why he's the one who, I suppose you could argue, technically gets what he wants in the end. I mean, other than the fact that he dies, which we've spoiled enough to not have it be a spoiler anymore. But he still basically gets what he wants, even though he's not around to see it. So that was all going to be in aid of something else, and I don't remember now. It's going to be something about archetypes, because of course it was. Okay, that might have helped if it wasn't on the other side of Mercury by now.
I know, I didn't. Last time it didn't nearly hit that far over. Like, I think I may have actually hit him in the chest last time, and it just dropped where he was.
Well, yeah, I don't know where I was going to go with that, but that was, I suppose, archetypes are good things. They're interesting, and I wish people tend to shy away from them because we think of them as cliche, and they're not. They're not just cliche, because the thing is, cliches are surface level. Archetypes go down to the root, which is why you can have the same archetype in many genres who are all still different.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of the whole, Jordan Peterson talks about the whole even alpha male thing being a thing and going, don't ignore it or try to say it's not, because it is a thing.
Well, that's not exactly an archetype. That's more of a personality.
Well, but I mean, you could argue that is
archetypes are often narratively focused.
Well, that
because of the fact
true.
that that's how they appear. It's essentially the whole.
I suppose taking it to a sociological level, but still.
Well, see, am I not dead yet? Okay, see, it looked like I was dead because I thought I totally fell over, and the screen was totally gone. Gone. Ooh, that was a weird hiccup. Because I mean, in a Jordan Peterson way, the way he describes that, archetypes express just fundamental human nature.
Right.
But they often do it through narrative because we have been telling narratives longer than we could articulate human nature.
Right.
Which is why they can manifest in many different ways. That's why one thing we discussed, that's what I was going to be. I was going to get back to this that we talked about but didn't actually get to. The whole Vander Silco being the mythological, the Egyptian Osiris. Well, I feel maybe I can wrap it up quick. We're only just past the 2-hour mark. We've certainly not finished this. All right, I'll try to be... Because basically, I was watching... It was a Jordan Peterson lecture where he talked about the Egyptian mythology, which I had already heard him talk about it previously. And so he was talking about Horus, whose symbol is the Eye of Horus, is the famous Egyptian symbol that pretty much everyone knows. And how it sort of represented, the ability to pay attention and to observe such that you can actually be effective in the world.
I thought there was a Greek god he talked about that with.
He talks about it in the Mesopotamian. There's a similar Mesopotamian thing, but it's not the same symbol.
Sure.
And so he was talking about that, and he makes this offhand comment, which is funny because he starts by talking about Horus, jumps to Osiris for a second, who is Horus's father, who represents. The way he describes it as. Well, you could stand there and eat 15 while throwing the grenade.
I did it last time where I threw it and then squatted immediately and it worked out. But.
Oh, sure. Osiris is Horus's father, who he says who represents. I think he says something like dead tyranny or dead totalitarianism. That I think goes stronger than I mean for this application, but I think we talked about Vander as representing sort of the benevolent blind king.
Right.
It's going, yes, he means well, but he's blind to the things that are significantly important, the things that he should know. The thing, like, he's blind to the fact that his community is dying around him.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, it's like he's blind to the fact that his community is dying around him, and none of the things he's trying to affect, the changes he's trying to make, are going to stop that. I was being too quick. And so it's like, oh, and so he mentions this, and I was like, oh, that's why we had that, and then it occurs to me, wait, hang on, Horus, symbol of the eye, how the heck did I not connect that with Silco before? Because obviously, in the Egyptian myth, you think, well, Osiris's brother was Set, the god of chaos,
right.
And that's another Petersonian archetypal thing where you're going, order and chaos are. It's a yin and yang where each contains the other, how order can always collapse into chaos and chaos can always become order. But it occurred to me, I was like, wait, yes, he does symbolize that in a certain way, because that's his whole character, is about embracing the chaos in a way. But he is also, at the same time, the symbol of the eye. Literally, not only do I mean as his character,
right.
But there's even you should watch. I brought up the Schnee channel last time, who does a whole bunch of these Arcane videos, because I wouldn't have known about this, but in I think it's episode 6, when Vi and Caitlin are at their old house, and there's the weird neon eye statue. Right. That's actually apparently within the lore that was Silco built that there specifically because that was where all the Shimmer junkies were,
right? And
it was essentially to be a reminder. It's because that's his whole thing, and it's actually called the Eye of Zon apparently within the lore. So I was like, how the heck did I not put that together? Because I was making the comparison for Vander being totally blind for how it compares to the other side. And then I was like, but that's fascinating that he symbolizes two what would seemingly be opposed archetypes at once. And that's why we're talking about like the whole concept of archetypes aren't always cliches, because they have different personifications, and they can even have different personifications within one person. Because he is both the chaos that destroys order, but also the order that turns chaos back, or sort of the force that turns chaos back into order, which you could argue he never got the chance to do. So and some people therefore would say, well, then he wasn't that. And I'd go, well, I maintain that was like he was a very ordered person. If you want to talk about the actual embodiment of chaos in the show, it's Jinx, by for every reason obvious. Despite him claiming this and certainly being, and again, I say integrated, where he's brought it into himself, he still is he runs a tight ship. It's a very hierarchical structure. So I think, given the chance, I think they would have absolutely gone back to an ordered society, but with the rules that were more favorable towards his people.
Right.
Some people, of course, will think, oh, no, he was a villain till the end, and I don't know what arguments they've got. I'd like to hear them. Shall we give it one more attempt? Or shall I not?
The bottom line is they're wrong.
We can't stop on that. That was way too heady and way too
It wasn't
loose.
that heady. I don't feel like it was that heady.
Well, it felt heady to me when the realization hit me. I was like, whoa! It felt... Essays need to be written about the show, is what I'll say.
Well, and you even...
I'm sure they will be. I mean, video essays are already being made.
The actual concept art, not concept art, but
you should watch
staging.
That video.
Yeah, that was stunning.
I forget what the channel is, but the video is called "Why Arcane Feels Alive," and he goes into some of how like the storyboards were made, and you're going, okay, so these are just like
the storyboards.
This is art in and of itself.
Absurd. Like,
it's ridiculous that you'd call this a storyboard. This is a piece of concept art.
I was literally, it floored me. I was literally going, okay.
Well, I feel like, can we end on a joke or something? Because I still feel like you don't feel like that was a significant. We're talking about archetypes and Egyptian mythology.
That was, well, yeah, but I mean, there's not a problem.
You don't want to end on a joke? I feel like, I don't know,
You want me to talk about my torpedo again?